It was a beautiful August summer's morning in North Devon. You could hear all the birds in the trees calling to each other peacefully, and the bees in the garden were humming as they industriously worked around all the amazing flowers in my grandmother's front garden. We were stood there looking at the flowers. We'd just come back from my grandfather's funeral. One of the neighbours drove past and he stopped the car and rolled down the window. And he called across to my grandmother and he said to her, "Now you're a rich widow, I shall have to come a-calling." My grandmother bristled as she opened her mouth and she shouted angrily across the lawn, and the entire neighbourhood heard her tear the neighbour a new one. And she said, "I wouldn't go out with you if your arse was studded in diamonds." And she stormed off into the house. She was angry but she had no idea why. The circumstances of the depression of having to give up everything they owned and walk 200 miles, relying on the kindness of strangers. The start of the war, my grandfather going off into the army, leaving her with no means of support, having to get a job in the worst winter in living memory, when temperatures were 20 degrees colder than they normally were. My grandfather disappearing, missing in action, and finally turning up years later after every other man had made his way home, all conspired to crush the hopes and dreams of my grandmother to the point where she became very, very angry and bitter. And that anger and bitterness impacted my dad, her son, my parents, me. Everybody in the family was impacted, my mental health. So let's talk about anger and talk about, well, what is it you can do to embrace the anger and let it go? First things first, the purpose of anger. The purpose of anger is to help us to put in boundaries. But if we can throw our anger onto everybody around us, it's kind of like picking up a handful of red hot coals out of the fire with your bare hands and throwing them at somebody. You're going to get burnt, and in fact, you'll be more badly burnt than the person you throw them at. So hanging on to that anger is just burning another hole through your hand. So we all know that anger's bad for us, and what do most of us do is, well, we bottle it down and we shove it down and we pretend that it's the wrong thing to do, and the anger doesn't go away. It just gets worse and worse and worse, and eventually it just bursts out somewhere. So what do you do about that? Well, there's a few things you can do. The first thing is to acknowledge that the anger is healthy, right? But also to acknowledge is that when you're triggered off into anger, it's nothing to do with what's triggered you. You need that perspective of self-awareness that we talked about yesterday. That perspective of self-awareness is, well, why am I being triggered off into anger? And as soon as you ask that question, it's like, well, what's triggering me off? And so some of the things that trigger us off into anger are, number one, comparing ourselves to other people. When we're angry, it's like the question to ask yourself to get perspective is, what is it that I need to learn from this experience? You see politicians, you see media, you see all of this polarization that goes off, deliberately there to stoke the drama, to get people angry and upset and afraid, because then they will pay attention to the adverts which are advertising the goods and services that the media want us to look to. The politicians want us angry and afraid, so that we will vote for them because they present themselves as the saviour to these situations. Right, so the first thing to do is stop comparing yourself to those people, stop landing yourself and projecting yourself in and being enrolled in that drama of the anger, right? Because in doing that, you're comparing yourself to other people. The media, social media is not reality, it's not real. We see all this perfect stuff and we think that our lives should be perfect. We compare ourselves to others, and that makes us angry as well, because our lives are not the polished, made up, beautiful images with all these fit people who can do all this yoga or whatever it is. We end up comparing ourselves to other people and it just makes us more angry. So start the process of stopping comparing yourself to other people. And so that easily rolls on to stop taking things personally. You know, when a politician does something stupid, don't take it personally. These people are human beings. In the UK, there was a politician who resigned last week because he was repeatedly watching pornography in the Houses of Parliament in the UK. And he apologised to his wife for being a fucking idiot. And a lot of people were very angry about that. And it's like, well, don't take it personally. At the end of the day, it's nothing to do with us. It was completely inappropriate. The right thing has happened. It's up to him how he manages it. It's not us to take on something like that personally. The next piece really is this, we'll have a thinking about that. Well, why would somebody descend to that level that they would put their entire life, career and relationships at risk by doing something so stupid like watching pornography in the Houses of Parliament? And it comes down to isolation. The reason that people are distracted, the reason that people are looking for connection is because they feel isolated. And feel isolated is one of the causes of anger. As you get more isolated, you feel more disconnected from other people. And what that politician was doing in Parliament was just trying to reconnect in some way. It was a broken, damaged, and very, very inappropriate way, but that's what was going on there. So get out into nature, start improving your mood, start doing a few things. There doesn't have to be hugely social interaction, but start the process of stopping being isolated. It will help you get out there, get on the bike, go for a swim, meet some other people, do a few little social things, even if it's just a chit chat at the coffee shop after the gym. Get out there, stop being so isolated. It will help with the anger. Now, speaking of meeting people and going out, stop being friends with toxic people. There are people who are also very angry all the time, and birds of a feather flock together. So one of the things you can do there is to identify those people who are always trying to enroll us in their drama, who's always trying to enroll us in their anger. But those people that spend their entire life gossiping and criticizing other folks, stop hanging out with them. It drains you, makes you angry. And indeed, sometimes what happens is you get involved in that drama. You become part of that group of people who get involved in the drama of whatever is going on. You know, everybody's got an opinion about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. People can waste hours of their time talking about what he did, what she said, all those different pieces. They're involved in the drama. Now, none of us obviously want to be involved in such a massive train wreck of a relationship. But that also doesn't mean that we should be watching every moment of every piece of drama as it comes our way and the different YouTube videos. You're involving yourself in the drama. So, and while we're talking about the media and we're talking about those things, I talked a little bit earlier about what happens in the media in some that they deliberately try to polarize people. Stop watching the news. It's actually easy to turn off the TV, and there's a lot of people don't watch TV anymore, but people are still, following things on Twitter, following things on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of news. It's like, there's nothing wrong with taking time to actually work out what's going on in the world, but try and find a channel which isn't there consistently trying to hype up and do things and cause more drama. Causing more drama is exactly what they want because they're a commercial operation. They want to be able to demonstrate that the advertising is working by the number of people watching the adverts. It's very, very easy to be terribly overwhelmed, particularly when, scenes from the war in Ukraine. I've got Ukrainian friends here in Singapore, and a lot of them are on medication right now. But because every time they turn on the news, there's this massive anxiety because, their families and friends are at risk. And it's easy to understand that stopping watching the news is actually going to help you be less angry. So the bottom line is you can make things easier on yourself. You can become more self-aware. There's a number of things you can do that I've just been through that help you remove yourself and allow that self-awareness to be present when you're not involved in all the drama, the news, the toxicity, and all the other things that are going on. That will help you give yourself the space for you to decompress from all of the drama that's going on for you personally as you process through, navigate the storm of divorce. Have a great day. Talk again soon.